The ancient ruins of Ephesus are located in the town of Seljuk, about 80 kilometers from Izmir. They are easily accessible by train, which we took early in the morning to be among the first on the site and avoid the main crowds of tourists. The ruins themselves are located 4 kilometers from Seljuk train station, and there are frequent Dolmuş bus services that take passengers to the site. Along the way, you will pass a few cafes where you can enjoy traditional Turkish breakfast with gözleme and coffee. In this video, we visit a few prominent sites in the city: the archaeological site of Ephesus, the biblical cave of the Seven Sleepers, the Ayasuluk Byzantine fortress, and the Christian Basilica of St John. The original Greek theatre of Ephesus is one of the largest theatre buildings of antiquity. In its final phase of construction, it's provided space for 25,000 spectators. The original cladding of the auditorium, made of marble slabs, was lost over the centuries. According to the latest research, the first theatre was built on the site in the 3rd century BC, and later the theatre underwent major reconstruction. Around the middle of the 2nd century AD, the orchestra stage were completely redesigned, allowing the gladiator fights and animal combat. The first settlements in the urban area date back to around 5000 BC. In the 2nd millennium BC, Hittite mentioned a settlement called Apasa in the land of Arzava, which is likely identical to the later Ephesus. From around the 10th century BC, the settlement was established by Ionic Greeks, and later in the 3rd century, Ephesus was relocated to its present location. Since then, Ephesus has been a major port city, eventually being incorporated into the Roman Empire in the 2nd century BC. The Library of Celsus was built in Ephesus to honor the Roman senator Tiberius Julius Celsus, and served as a funerary monument after his death. It was the 3rd largest library in the Greco-Roman world, behind only those of Alexandria and Pergamon, and is believed to have held around 12,000 scrolls. The valuable texts were protected from temperature and humidity extremes by a 1-meter gap between the inner and outer walls. Facade niches hold replica statues of the four virtues: Sophia wisdom, Arete goodness, Eunoia thought, and Episteme knowledge. The originals are in Vienna's Ephesus Museum. The Austrian Archaeological Foundation restored the Library of Celsus in the 70s. It is considered an architectural marvel and is one of the few remaining examples of great libraries of the ancient world located in the Roman Empire. Agora was one of the largest marketplaces of antiquity, built to trade local products of Asia. The marketplace, measuring 110 by 110 meters, consisted of a large open square surrounded by rows of shops with unroofed colonnades. It is believed the Apostle Paul, who was a tent maker, may have rented one of the shops under covered walkways to set out his wares and attract more trade. The Agora was also served as a meeting place for political associations and a court where people gathered for justice. Temple of Hadrian was dedicated to Emperor Hadrian, who came to visit the city from Athens in 128 AD. The facade of the temple has 4 Corinthian columns supporting a curved arch, in the middle of which contains a relief of Tyche, goddess of victory. Inside the Hadrian Temple, above the door, a human figure of Medusa stands with ornaments of acanthus leaves. On both sides there are friezes depicting the story of foundation of Ephesus. The Nymphaeum Traiani is a grand fountain dedicated to Emperor Trajan, served as a monumental public water source and a place of leisure showcasing the advanced engineering and artistry of its time. The Herakles Gate marks the boundary between uptown and downtown. It is named after the two marble pillars with the reliefs of the mythical Greek hero Herakles, which stands on the other side of the narrow entrance. Memmius monument had 4 facades and was erected to commemorate dictator Sulla's victory over Mithridates in 85 BC, after he had massacred 80,000 Romans in Anatolia. Ephesus had supported Mithridates because of the high Roman taxation. 1400-seat Odeon Theatre was used primarily for lectures and musical performances, but given its location next to the Agora, it also functioned as a 450-seat council chamber for matters concerning city government. Temple of Artemis was one of the 7 wonders of the world. It was built in 550 BC and was dedicated to an ancient Greek goddess of Artemis. The temple was famous not only for its great size, but also for the magnificent works of art that adorned it. The temple was destroyed by invading Goths in the 3rd century AD and was never rebuilt. Little remains of the temple, though there are many fragments, especially of sculptured columns, in the British Museum. Seven sleepers are the heroes of a famous legend that during the persecution of Christians in 250 AD, under the Roman Emperor Decius, 7 Christian soldiers were concealed near Ephesus in a cave, to which the entry was later sealed. There, having protected themselves from being forced to do pagan sacrifices, they fell into miraculous sleep. 200 years later, the cave was reopened and the sleepers awoke. The Basilica of St John in Ephesus is one of the most important historical sites of early Christianity. It was erected in the 6th century AD in honor of St John, the beloved disciple of Jesus, and is said to house his tomb. Its structure and spiritual legacy attract pilgrims and tourists from around the world. According to Christian tradition, Jesus asked St John to take care of his mother, the Virgin Mary, after his death. John brought her to Ephesus, where they both settled. St. John, also known as John the Apostle, was martyred under Emperor Trajan's rule. The basilica has a cross-shaped floor plan, with 4 domes aligned along its longitudinal axis, and a central dome that stands out over the sacred tomb of St. John. The main dome represents the spiritual center of the basilica, where pilgrims have believed for centuries that the dust from the tomb possesses healing power. Ayasuluk Castle, Selçuk's crowning achievement, is accessed on the same ticket as the Basilica of St John, once the citadel's principal structure. The fortress protecting the basilica was originally built by the Byzantines, but the preserved walls mostly date from the Seljuk and Ottoman periods. The fortress has 15 towers and 2 gates. Within its area there are remains of houses, a mosque, cisterns and baths. The complex is also part of the Ephesus UNESCO World Heritage Site. If you enjoyed watching this video, I encourage you to subscribe, click like and hit notification bell button to get updated of the new releases.